that up, and the idea now is where the speech comes from. In one more generation, we're really close to mastered a lot of things in the pagan community, and as a part of our pagan pride events, as you can see, we are really kind of building these small villages, small towns, and these small communities that last for a day or two. These are what today in the marketing retail world you call pop-up events. And what they do is they help mingle and communicate on a physical level. And more you're starting to see that also be able to be followed in their communities. How do they communicate? Well, in this case, Denver Pagan Pride went through their Facebook page and various other aspects, where it's all about amplification now. So one of the things that Patrick McClellan taught me about his magic, and as you know, I love Halloween magic, was that the day that he was asked early on as a young man to do his rituals, he went in and said, "Hey, folks," he was asked, "What do you want to do?" And he wrote, "I want to change the world. I want to create world peace." And so he put that in there, and everybody said, "Oh, that's just too big of a wish to have for that." In a few weeks, Patrick McCollum, His Excellency, will be actually announcing a project with the indigenous people, and we'll be gathering them together to start to talk of the peace talks and some negotiations about them. A wicked man, now on the UN platform. He was just nominated by Jane Goodall. So, in one generation, he went from being kind of mocked for his ideas to standing on the brink of communicating with a billion people. Ray Kurzweil and all of them, what is a billion people, what is a billionaire this day? Let's refine it. Ray Kurzweil, Jason Silva, and a lot of them out there redefine it as being able to impact 1 billion people. If you make $1 billion away, that's terrific. Get yourself a plane, as Jason Silva says, and then he says, make sure it's an environmentally friendly one. But in that, I'm impacting 1 billion people. Now, another thing that happened along the way is that the Parliament of World Religion happened virtually, and I love virtual. And in that moment, they announced it going to Chicago at 2023, a real place of pagan things. And it was most accepted that pagans have been in our world front. Phil Scott moved along that. At the same time, she talked about a major aspect of strife and discriminating against witches and not allowing for the economics of witches. Isn't that amazing? But she went from a time when you couldn't talk about witches and pagans to a time now, at least you can be discriminated, but yet she was there at the vice chairman of the Parliament of World Religions and a chair on the world's largest platforms. So now it's my turn. And one of the things we've done as Pagan World is we've done the process of creating into the metaverse. Now, 3 days ago, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook has changed the name of the company to Meta. And as you know, we've been talking about metaverse, or more importantly, I talk about cyberspace. Metaverse exists in cyberspace, and that it's psychic spaces where our imagination goes from the inside into a creative world. And we're really starting to see that change. So in one more generation, we're going to see a major change in everything. But today I want to talk to you here about how we're going to make changes today. So in one more generation, and the children born today, when they stand here in 60 years, we'll live in a radically different world. Now, we don't know exactly what that world is going to look like. And it's right now in the point of leverage. Now, I want you to sit down here with me for a minute and imagine the future. And to imagine the future, imagine now. Just relax. Imagine if you can have a bit of time travel moment. Because after all, what are all the great tropes in the world? About time travel. You change one small thing in the past and you can change the future forever. Well, that actually works really right now. I mean, if you make one small change right now, why would it be any different if you had foreknowledge? And of course we have a lot of foreknowledge. One of the things the psychic community, the meta-magical community has, it has an incredible skill at forethought, precognition, references to all of this. And so what? People don't understand it. Meta-physical, meta-everything. So we're entering into a world in which our magic, our way of thinking, our consciousness is actually going to be the explanatory words in the system. They called it teleporting when you're traveling from one camera to another. We're going to be crossing worlds. We'll talk about multiverses. All of that ideology is there. But here's what it is. We don't get any of that. Let me go ahead and be honest. We don't get any of that unless we start planning for one more generation.